All right, hello and welcome everybody to Lightworker Academy today, April 16th, and we're talking about wisdom of the body. This has been a several month journey. We're doing one class every month out of a longer curriculum. This is a 12 class series, one every month throughout this year in 2019, based in working with a curriculum that I developed in healership for Lightworker practitioners. That curriculum will be taught at a live 4-day event later in October. I'll be giving you all, since you're all tuning into these classes, I'm going to be giving you all first dibs to register or put your hat in the ring to apply if you'd like to come to that healership training as we get a little closer to October. But keep in mind that everything we're talking about here fits within a larger context and practical body of knowledge and curriculum that is not only super helpful and super informative on the personal level, but ultimately with the goal of helping us be better practitioners, helping us show up in the world more fully, more empowered, more feeling connected to our body and ourselves. So in case you missed our past classes, I know I am going to be referencing a couple of things in here that relate to our past classes. This is an independent teaching. All of these are independent teachings, and yet they are all related. So in case you missed any of the past classes, those are all available in an archive. And if you'd like to access those, go ahead and either shoot me a message, or if you're tuning in live, you're going to get an email later that will have a link to our recording. As with all people tuning in live, you get the link to the recording. You get first dibs to register right away for next month's class. And you'll also have a way to access the archives, circle back and fill yourself in on any gaps that you may have missed in the last few months. Just to put on your calendar that our next class is on Tuesday, May 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And this class coming up next month includes some of my most popular teachings. This is stuff that comes in not only into the alchemical philosophy that I teach with my I Am Alchemy students, but it comes into pretty much all of my one-on-one work. I think we've done this with almost all of my clients one-on-one, and it's working with emotional alchemy. This is some really powerful stuff. We all have hidden trapped emotions. We all have some sort of stuff come up in working with our emotions. And so next month we'll be working some really powerful tools with that. That class will fill up. It will sell out. So I do encourage you, as soon as you get the link, to go ahead and jump on and register right away to make sure you grab a spot. So again, that's Tuesday, May 14th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, Emotional Alchemy. And that'll catalyze our shift into the Mercury realm of awareness. So again, here's one of those points where I'm going to reference a previous class in case you missed it. Our very first class in January, our first Lightworker Academy class in January, was regarding the 3 Essentials of Alchemy for Lightworkers. So we talked about the salt, mercury, and sulfur principles that constitute, in essence, they're a little more nuanced than that, but in essence, the body, the spirit, and the soul. And so this is our last class, Wisdom of the Body. This is our last class that has to do with the salt realm. So we've been working in the medicine wheel. We've been working with the cosmic keys of the universe. Today we're working in Wisdom of the Body. And then starting next month, we'll be shifting into the spirit realm, the Mercury realm, which next month is emotional intelligence. And there's some other really fun things that we're going to be doing as we get into Mercury. And then the sulfur level is all about the soul realm. So our soul contract, soul retrieval, karmic clearing, past lives, all of that. So there's so much more good stuff to come, so much more things to dig our hands into. And today is our last opportunity to really play in the body. So I hope that you're excited. I know I am. These practices that we're going to be talking about today, remembering that everything we're doing throughout this curriculum is based in alchemical philosophy, shamanic philosophy, advanced healing principles, and throughout my 16 plus years of training and practice. So knowing that what we're weaving in has roots in a lot of different things, and yet these philosophies come together and inform each other in a super supportive way. So we're going to be working with some of that today. But for now, before we go ahead and delve into Wisdom of the Body, I invite you to go ahead and set everything down. I'll do the same. So setting aside our notebooks, pens, just don't need it right now. And we're going to take a moment to, since we're working in the body, it's important that we drop into the body. And I invite you to go ahead and close your eyes And allow yourself to make any postural adjustments that feel supportive to you right now, with the intention that we're...
Of course I do. I have to put it away, of course. There we go.
Hi, CJ. Welcome on. I'm going to go ahead and mute you as we're starting a meditation. So welcome. Beautiful. And so as we're closing our eyes and making any postural adjustments, with that intention of releasing any areas of stiffness or tension or holding in the body, just take a moment to notice, and whatever changes you make, remember that they can be really small adjustments. It doesn't have to be a major adjustment. But allowing yourself to find a space, a posture that feels really comfortable in the balance between holding and non-holding. And what I mean with that is that as we're sitting, I'm imagining you're sitting, I'm sitting, you might be lying down, but as we're engaged in any posture, there are some muscles, some structural muscles that are engaged to just make sure we don't fall over. And those are holding. And it's the kind of thing that we don't even have to think about. Like when you're feeling really stable on your meditation cushion, you're not even so aware of it, but just the muscles that are engaged to hold you, holding your neck so that your head doesn't flop over to the side, holding your shoulders, holding your core. And taking a moment to notice if there are any muscles or muscle groups holding that don't need to be in order for you to be comfortable, in order for you to be upright. And if so, go ahead and just take a breath into those muscles or muscle groups and invite them to release. And as you do so, again, arriving at that intention of the balance between holding and non-holding. And when you feel as though you've reached a space ideal in that balance, go ahead and just take a couple of breaths to notice what you notice about this sensation. As you soften into your awareness, what comes to your attention? Are there any muscle groups that want to reactivate after you've told them they don't need to? Is there a postural muscle group or structural muscle group that you feel maybe is not used to holding? If we're spending a lot of time at the computer or sitting down, maybe our back muscles, our shoulder muscles are used to being a little curved forward. And so inviting that gentle re-engagement of the structural musculature. And as you continue to soften into your awareness, let's go ahead and invite ourselves to fully arrive in the present moment with the breath. Exhaling everything out. Deep breath in. And exhale with a sigh. Good. Another breath just like that. Deep breath in all the way to the belly. And exhaling with a sigh. Two more. Deep breath in. Good. One more. Deep breath in all the way down. Allowing yourself to soften and return to a regular rhythm of the breath. And let's do a little checkpoint awareness now. What do you notice? that may have shifted or changed, even from just a few moments ago before we took those breaths? Is there any more space created in the body? Any more softness? More relaxation? More intention? And as you notice what you notice, let's go ahead and pose a gentle question to the body, knowing that your body is here with you to be receiving of this information, be receiving of these practices. And go ahead and maybe place a hand on your heart or hand on your belly or both, tuning into the centers, these intuitive centers of the body. And the question we'll ask is, inquiring of your body, what would your body like to receive out of today? What would you like to receive out of today from your body perspective? Notice whatever arises in your awareness, whatever comes up. What would your body like to receive out of this experience? And go ahead and offer a deep bow of gratitude to whatever awareness arises from that question. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's go ahead and use your hands to just give yourself a hug. Wrap your arms around yourself. Give yourself a big squeeze. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And coming back to your conscious awareness with the knowledge of this answer that you received, go ahead and roll the wrists, wiggle the fingers and toes, give a little stretch. Coming back into your conscious awareness. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Go ahead and take a couple of moments to journal anything you would like from that experience. And if there's anything that you would like to share, let's go ahead. We'll take a moment for maybe 2 or 3 shares. So go ahead and unmute yourself or use the chat box on the side of your screen to share how that experience went for you and what your body would like to receive from this experience. I would love to know. Erin says, I heard wholeness and integration. Beautiful. Okay, so your body would love to receive wholeness and integration. Any idea of what that means or what that looks like? Or is it more, I'm open to however that shows up?
I was thinking about wholeness in terms of an integration where I think I spend a lot of time focused on my mind and the upper, like shoulder and up kind of realm.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, part of the body that I look at the most. And that the lower part of my body, which is physically, I think, weaker in some ways post-motherhood, and also maybe because having a body that I felt insecure about maybe didn't get as much positive feedback as the upper half. And so, being in a journey already in different ways, but learning how to bring this into one whole system, an integrated system that is cooperative and equally beloved, not unbalanced, more balanced.
Awesome. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for elaborating. And we are going to speak to some of those aspects today. There were a couple of points that you brought up that are absolutely in our conversation. So I appreciate you sharing. Thank you, Erin. Beautiful. Anyone else? What is your body asking for? What would your body like to receive out of our work today? We have time for one more share. Yeah, what you got?
Hi, Michelle, it's Brianna.
Hi, Brianna. What you got?
Hello. So the message that I received was, get to know yourself again.
Okay. Get to know yourself again. What does that mean?
Well, for me, it means listening to myself, trusting myself, get to know myself again.
Yeah.
Like that I know these things and trust it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So just reminders.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, both of you and everybody else. I know that whatever you received is exactly right for you. Or if you didn't necessarily receive a specific message and it's just sort of a I'm open, then that's great too. And also, as we go ahead, keep in mind that the chat bar is open if you want to go ahead and type into the chat bar. If there's any questions or comments come up, there will be a couple of moments where I'll pause and we'll open for shares like this. But if any inquiries or any kind of momentary little shares come up, then that's a great place to share in the chat bar. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. We did a little bit longer practice than normal today on purpose, right? Because I invite you to keep everything that we're receiving right now in mind for later at the end of our class when we circle back with, okay, then how are we relating to body awareness and how are we engaging with that? And we're going to be doing some tools at the very end of our practice or of our time today. And knowing that it's kind of funny, I was thinking about this actually when I'm saying to myself, like, okay, well, I'm going to teach a class on body wisdom and corporeal intelligence, which inherently involves us talking, right? And I know last month when I did the Cosmic Keys of the Universe, we did have movement practice. So we were, standing up and moving and doing stuff together. And really, I just invite you to keep that in mind of inherently talking and having a virtual class on body intelligence is somewhat of an interesting little irony and yet invitation to stay present within your body even while we're working in an intellectual space. So today we're talking about body wisdom. We're talking about the foundations of body wisdom. So looking at really concretely, what does that actually mean? And why does it matter to cultivate corporeal intelligence? And I'm going to be working with a few different terms around that. So we'll talk about what those terms are and why they're more or less talking about the same thing, but why they're sort of interchangeable and what they mean for you. And what gets in the way of us feeling connected to our body wisdom? We had both when Erin and Brianna shared some things come up about, okay, feeling disconnected or feeling unbalanced or, feeling as though, the way that we treat bodies in society is impacting our experience. And all of that is true. All of that is in this consideration. So looking at some of these things of, well, what is in the way of that and how do we overcome that? And we'll spend the last part of our time today looking at tools and practices for working with, cultivating, and practicing corporeal intelligence, tuning into the wisdom that you receive as a result, and then an exercise to get us started at the very end. And in our last few moments together, I do have an invitation for you, since I know that a lot of what we'll be talking about today, you might have the experience of like, okay, now what? And at the end of our time, I'll share with you just a few minutes of some support that I would love to offer you if that feels aligned. So let's go ahead and jump into our foundations of body wisdom, looking at first of all, just the idea of being in a body, I think is so fascinating because on one hand, it's the most primal, earthly, grounded part of our experience. And when we're born, when we're babies, or if you have children, right, that either human children or animal children, or you're connected with other beings in their bodies without any of the baggage, it's so innate, it's natural, it's primal. And then all of this stuff gets in the way, where we start, growing up and using our words to communicate. And we spend a lot of time inside, and we wear shoes all the time, and we're in fluorescent lighting, and there's body shaming, and there's advertising, and there's trauma, and there's injury, and all these things. And so it strikes me as sort of funny, but also like not funny at all, that we need classes like this in order to reattune to our body wisdom. And that I myself spent many years growing up not feeling super at home in my body. And I'll share a little bit about that with you later. But this idea of what does it mean to feel embodied is essentially to reconnect with the earthly part of ourselves, knowing that our bodies are made of earth. Everything found in our bodies is found on earth. All of the molecules, all the minerals, all of the amino acids, and the compounds in the water, and everything that exists within us exists on earth. So inherently we have this really easy path back into our bodies is also leading us back into earth. And the more that we're connecting with our earth-based wisdom, again, we've spent the last few classes talking about the SALT principle, starting with the medicine wheel, so our earth wisdom, moving into the cosmic keys of the universe, these innate patterns and shapes of energy movement, and how they help us ground into embodied energy. And now tuning into, well, what does our body have to offer in terms of, it's really nothing more and nothing less than reconnecting with our vital human experience, the living tissue expression of our lives. And so it's important to keep in mind that everything that is in our body is on earth, which means that we have a resonant frequency. We already have a super easy point of contact between ourselves and absolutely everyone and everything else around us in the world. This is something that I know last year I did a class on empowered empathy. So in case you missed that, that's also in the archives that I'll be sending you a link to if you want to tune into that. It was an awesome class. But knowing that if you're on this class, if you're here, you're probably an empath. Let's be real. You're sensitive. You feel other people's feelings. You feel other energies. You feel when there's a natural disaster and all of a sudden you're feeling this in your body, right? Because our bodies are made of these same things, we have a very natural physical connection to an energetic resonance, which means that someone else feeling something in their body might be mirrored in your body, and your body can give you information, or some other emotion might be mirrored in your body, or something else, which means that our bodies are very finely tuned antenna to give us incredibly accurate information about very subtle things that do not exist in the conscious awareness. And I want to make that, like, triple underline that in your notes if you want to, but this idea of our bodies are the most sensitive antenna we could possibly have when we're attuned to it, which means that it's simultaneously a gift and a challenge of, if we're able to attune to that sensitivity and allow ourselves to receive from that based on this energetic resonance that we have, it's an incredible tool. There is no more precise, valuable tool for tuning into the subtle frequencies. And yet also the extreme sensitivity can sometimes feel like a burden, or feel dangerous, or feel like we don't necessarily want that, which then leads to us shutting it down or stepping away, which is some of what we'll talk about a little bit later with what gets in the way of having clear access to our body wisdom. So keeping in mind that there is no better mechanism to tune into subtle energies, emotions, or frequencies than your body. Your body is the perfect mechanism for that. So whether you're using this with just as a personal awareness of noticing, like, okay, what energies are around right now? How's my body doing? What am I feeling? Whether you're using this with your families, your partners, of tuning into subtle frequencies, or your kids having things but not wanting to talk about it, right? Then you can kind of feel it and be sensitive and create a supportive environment. Whether you're using this with your clients, if you're a healer or practitioner, or some service-based business, and you're tuning into subtle frequencies or community energies, then your body is the ideal mechanism for you to be aware of those subtle shifts. So this, I hope, is making a lot of sense as to why we would want to do this. There's so many reasons why we would want to cultivate corporeal intelligence and what that does for us. Knowing that corporeal intelligence is really different from being in our bodies in a way that a lot of popular media or popular culture displays being in our bodies. So I'll share a little bit of a personal insight with you, and this is somewhat related to some of the things that Erin and Brianna were sharing around this, like reconnecting with the body or feeling a little disconnected from the body. I grew up not really liking being in a body. And I remember this is the sort of thing where I look back now and be like, oh my gosh, I was a little like ungrounded alien child, like in the cutest possible way, right? About the arriving in a physical body. I remember telling my mom at like a relatively young age, it's hard being on Earth. And I look back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't fully grounded here. And there are a lot of people who come to me who still feel that way. And maybe you felt that way too, of it is hard being on Earth. It's hard being in a body. I said those things to my mom as a kid because I didn't really have a relationship, a super solid relationship with my body. I felt awkward. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't really have a clear connection to being in the physical form. And yet I loved Earth. I really loved animals. It was very natural for me to be in nature. And I spent a lot of years growing up. As a child, I was overweight. I wasn't super healthy. I got pneumonia every single year. I had asthma as a kid. And I also, ironically, was an athlete. And so I played a lot of sports, and yet I wasn't really healthy. I was playing basketball. I played baseball. I did horseback riding for many years. I did, like pretty much every single sport I dabbled in. I played volleyball. I played tennis. I did not play soccer or track. But I did, and I rode on my crew team for 4 years through university. I was a captain on my crew team. I rode on a master's crew team after I graduated. And so I had a lot of physical things that I was practicing, but it's not the same as being grounded in my body awareness. And that really started shifting for me. I think around the time I had graduated from university. So through all of that time, I was doing things, and yet I was doing things with my body. I was moving. I was an athlete. I was practicing. I was training. When I was in university, I like to say I double majored in biology and crew, just in terms of the amount of hours spent practicing and training. And yet in my early 20s was when I actually started grounding in having an intuitive, cultivated relationship with my body. And that came through the practices that I chose to do in engaging in dance, engaging in shamanic movement practices, and in bringing the spiritual awareness that I felt very connected to, bringing that etheric awareness into my embodied experience was the pathway for me to actually land in embodied awareness. And then as soon as I did that, as soon as I practiced all these shamanic movement patterns and trance dance and intuitive movement and qigong and all these practices, I was able to look back over my childhood and say, like, okay, there were moments when I experienced that, moments when I felt really connected, especially in like horseback riding, or when I was rowing for just the pleasure of being out on the water and that like silence in the morning, just the water, the oars in the water and the sun rising behind the mountain. Like there were moments when I felt that connection, but it didn't come from the physical practice, because the physical practice was actually taking me further away from my body awareness. And I share that with you because a lot of us have physical practices, but my question to you is your physical practice actually helping you feel more at home in your body? Or is it a way of just moving your body and checking out into your mind? And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes I do that. Like I'll go running in order to think about something, which means that I'm not really in my body. My body's just moving in order to clear space for my mind to be spinning. So even when I'm running, I'm not in my body. And yet sometimes I go running for the sake of just being in my breath and being in my body. So I invite you to make a little note for yourself about auditing your physical practice and seeing, does your physical practice actually support and enhance your body awareness and help you feel more grounded and safe and healthy in your body, or is it not doing that for you? So when we're cultivating corporeal intelligence, it's really, really important because it does some of those things that I was mentioning. It helps us feel more grounded. You know, we spend our lives inside, in front of computers, on our phones, in fluorescent lighting, around lots of other people, in shoes. You know, we don't actually spend a lot of time being connected to earth vibration. And as a result, our bodies tend to suffer. We experience this through trouble sleeping, anxiety, stress. Like, how many of us are stressed the F out all the time, right? You know, we have varying degrees of this, and it comes from being ungrounded. So being in our bodies inherently helps us be more grounded, since remember, our bodies hold the resonant frequency of earth. The more connected we are to our bodies, the more connected we are to earth, the more we will be grounded and the healthier we will feel. It's this really nice little feedback loop. So grounding, feeling safe. Do you ever have those moments where, like, there's no reason for you to feel unsafe, and yet you just feel sort of jumpy, or you feel anxious or nervous for no apparent reason? You might not be grounded in your body. So the more we cultivate that corporeal intelligence and the body awareness, the easier access point we will have to feeling safe and to anchor in high vibration energies. If you're a healer, if you're doing energy work, if you're doing channeling, if you're doing any specific modality that's bringing in a lot of etheric frequencies, then it is very natural for us to be energetically top heavy. And this is something Erin was mentioning a little bit of this. I want to just kind of call this out in these specific terms. Most healers I meet, myself included, as I was growing up, I was all up here. My energy was all up here. I was an upper chakra person, heart and up. And I didn't really want to engage with my lower chakras, my root, my sacral, my solar plexus chakra. I know a lot of healers who are in that same boat because, oh, we're working with angels and we're working with high vibration frequencies. And when I'm up here, we're bliss bunnies and it's really fun and it feels really good. And yet we are only as effective as our ability to actually ground that in and make that energy useful and tangible in the physical plane. So my challenge to you as healer practitioners, as people who are working with high vibration energies, know that all of this is only as useful as you can bring it here. Keep that in mind. Okay, so it's really important to cultivate corporeal intelligence for our well-being, for our physical well-being, for our health. When we are feeling aligned with our body wisdom, we more naturally gravitate toward healthy options. And I'm curious, go ahead and type into the chat box, how many of you have had this experience where you're really tired, you're really depleted, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I just want to watch TV and eat crackers, or, crackers and peanut butter. Like, I just don't feel like the desire to make a proper meal isn't there, right? Have we all had this experience? I cannot be the only one. Come on. Yes. Okay. Yeah, for sure. People are saying yes. Okay. So this, when we're in tune, and yet also, have you had the experience? So this is kind of the second part of that question. Have you had the experience of you're taking a walk outside and you feel amazing and you're smelling the fresh air and it feels so good, and you go to the grocery store and all you want to buy is leafy greens and vegetables and healthy foods, and it feels so good to you because you're so full of life force, and that's what you're gravitating toward. Who's had that experience? Stacy says yes. Who else has had that experience of when we feel good? Exactly. Erin says exactly. When we feel connected to our body wisdom, Brianna says yes, we more naturally gravitate toward healthy options, healthy decisions, whether it's in terms of our nutrition, in terms of our behaviors. When we feel that vibrant, do you want to sit down and watch Netflix? No, I don't. When I feel that good, I'm like, I want to journal, I want to read, I want to take a walk outside, I want to listen to the birds, right? The more in touch we are with our body, the more we naturally crave more of that. So noticing that we create our own little feedback loops. When we feel depleted, when we feel disconnected, we naturally gravitate towards foods, relationships, emotions, experiences, behaviors that lead us to be more disconnected and unhealthy. So again, this nice little feedback of the more in tune you are with your body, like, you know, I had the experience of not even intending to stop drinking alcohol. As I was cultivating my body awareness, I stopped wanting alcohol. It didn't feel good to me. I took a sip, and like I go through these phases where I'll take a sip of beer. I like beer. I like red wine, and I'll take a sip and it tastes like the worst thing in the world to me. And so that's my body telling me, like, you don't need that right now. Spit that out. Get some fizzy water, get some lemon water, something else that actually is resonating with what your body's asking for. And so again, it's when we're connected, then we have an easier access point to stay healthy, to choose things that feel in alignment with our health and well-being. And we're more connected to effectively recognize and process energy. So again, if you're a healer practitioner, or if you're working with somebody, or even within the context of your partnership or your family, the more in touch you are with your body awareness, the more easily you will be able to help other people process their energy through their body, whether it's a client or a family member or whatever. It's almost as though, again, with our resonant frequencies, by you modeling healthy body awareness and healthy relationship with your corporeal intelligence, it makes it easier for other people to do that too. So it also, and this is one piece that, again, we're going to speak to that sensitivity, right? Of when we're connected to our body wisdom, we have heightened sensitivity. And then again, there's some other classes where I've talked about, well, how do we make sure that stays a healthy thing? And we'll do some of that in our tools and practices in a few minutes, okay? Let's go ahead and take a quick pause. Are there any questions or thoughts before we continue? I know I threw a lot out there at you. How's it feeling? What's your favorite thing you've heard so far? Go ahead and either unmute or use the chat box. Erin says, can you talk about what you mean by corporeal intelligence? Yes. Okay. So corporeal intelligence is the idea that, so corporeal means of the body, right? And intelligence is our capacity for awareness and processing and comprehension. So your body is wildly intelligent. Your body is able to measure frequencies and determine in, you know, a tiniest fraction of a second whether they're in alignment or out of alignment, right? Which is how I was using the example of taking a sip of alcohol and it tastes bad. That's my body indicating to me that's out of alignment right now. You don't need that. And so the intelligence of my body is discerning, okay, is this frequency feeling appropriate or inappropriate, alignment or out of alignment? And I'm only able to receive that when I'm in tune with my body. If I weren't in tune with my body and, like, you know, out just kind of doing whatever and grabbing a beer with friends and wasn't listening, then I would drink the beer anyway, even though my body is telling me, no, do not do that. So having this access point to our body's wisdom to say what is in our highest and greatest good to either process nutritionally or relationally. And I guess who's had an experience of, like, either being in a relationship, a romantic relationship, or a work relationship, or a friend relationship with somebody who just depletes you of energy, and, like, it feels really weird, and you're like, but whatever, I should like them, or we used to be in love or something. And then, or we used to be friends, and now we're no longer friends anymore, and it just feels really draining. And you walk away feeling depleted, and your body's, like, mad at you for spending time with this person that is sucking the life out of you. Has anyone had that experience? I know I'm making it sound a little dramatic, like varying degrees of that. No one has had that experience?
Yes.
Yes. Brianna, yes, you have.
Hey,
right?
yes.
So what was your body telling you that either you were or weren't listening to, or you figured out eventually?
Well, one in particular, and I'm experiencing this right now, is falling. So I deviated away from that relationship and was really healthy and feeling really good. And then you kind of get sucked back in, and then you started to build bad habits. But then the other person throws but we've been friends for so long. And I'm learning, like, it doesn't like, does that matter?
Right. Right. Yeah. And so, thank you, Brianna, for sharing. And yes, Aaron's saying yes and super hard when it's family. Oh, I totally hear you. Right. So in that case, we have emotional connection to this person. We have, either, oh, we used to be so close, or your family, I love you and I care about you. We have intellectual, like mental connection to this person. Okay, well, you're my friend and I care about you and you're going through a hard time right now. And we justify the heck out of it. Right. We may even have an energetic connection to this person of like, oh, we have all these past lives together and karmic agreements. And our body is the only one saying like, does not feel good. No more, thank you. Right. And so this idea of accessing the intelligence, the innate intelligence of our body, and I want to use that word here with a great deal of intention, where we tend to gravitate toward mental intelligence, intellectual intelligence. And yet our heart has intelligence, emotional intelligence, right? We are familiar with that term in terms of recognizing and responding to emotions. Our body has intelligence too. Aaron, does that answer your question? Awesome, thank you. Yay, great, okay. So what gets in the way? I realize I'm feeling really excited about this topic, so I'm talking a lot and I want to make sure we cover all our bases today. So what gets in the way? Some of the pieces that came up, they've come up already, and I want to look at this through the lens of physical, emotional, mental, energetic obstacles. Right? So physical obstacles are the easiest, right? So let's and go ahead and use the chat box if you want to chat in any physical obstacles that you can come up with. So some might be toxicity. If we have heavy metal toxicity or chemical toxicity in the body, it is harder for us to access our innate corporeal intelligence. Others might be injury, right? If we get in an accident, or we have scar tissue, or we have compensation, or if we're physical inactivity, right? If we're not using our bodies, this is another physical obstacle to feeling that awareness. Non-optimal nutrition, if we're eating things that aren't resonating with us. Lack of sleep, feeling disconnected from nature, just being around disruptive electrical or light patterns. Or also, have any of y'all heard about the 5G thing that's happening in the US right now? It's super messed up. So that's another layer of something electrical, something in terms of a synthetic frequency that is being used intentionally to disrupt the physical structures. I'm going to just leave that there for now. You can go research it if you want. It's really crazy, and other countries are looking at the US right now being like, that's illegal here because it hurts people, and yet that's happening here in the US. So the more we can cultivate that grounded relationship of being in nature, feeling connected with our bodies, feeling connected with our sense of safety, then that's becoming more necessary now than ever before. So physical obstacles to emotional, to our corporeal intelligence. We also have emotion, right? Stuck or unprocessed emotion. Brianna is saying lower vibrational people. Yeah. Absolutely. If we're around, remember that we have resonant frequencies. So if we're around other people who are holding a lower vibration of depression or anxiety or unhealthiness, right, or dis-ease, then we mirror that in our bodies. And that can be in the way of us feeling really connected to our body frequencies. Stuck or unprocessed emotion, if we have trauma, emotional or energetic trauma in the body, or we've been suppressing emotion. Aaron says old negative narratives, totally. Stories, right? Narratives stuck in the body, absolutely. And this is kind of an emotional, mental, energetic, all-in-one obstacle to being in touch with our body wisdom, is any story about, I can't do that, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, or my body is not ideal, or whatever the stories are. We receive so many inputs. We live in a society that tells us not to be connected to our bodies, either through body shaming or through eating things that are commercially available that aren't actually supportive, or from moving away from the lands and into the cities. Everything around us is designed to help us be less connected to our bodies, or designed to make us less connected to our bodies. So it requires effort to drop into this innate sense of wisdom and knowing. Also, from the energetic perspective, if we're highly sensitive people, we're empaths, or we don't feel safe in our bodies, that sensation I was describing to you as a child was this: I hadn't fully landed on Earth. It took me a minute, and I'm here now, and it's great, but it took many years of cultivating healthy, grounded body awareness mechanisms for me to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about right now, is what tools and practices, because by now you're probably like, okay, great. Now, Michelle, what do I do? Okay. So again, we can look at this on the different levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual levels. On the physical level, doing detox, doing a really safe, there's a mineral detox that I really like that takes heavy metals out of the body, receiving body work, receiving support from a nutritional therapist or a nutritionist, or just intuitive eating from a space that's really aligned with that. Okay, if you take a sip of beer and it tastes bad, like, maybe don't drink beer, or drink lemon water instead, or just, noticing as you get into your own body awareness, then letting yourself be governed by that. Sleeping a lot is really good for this. Going outside. And then I want to mention one practice that I do with a lot of clients and students, specifically who are in that energetically top heavy category, in terms of, like, we have a lot of mental energy running, or a lot of psychic energy running. Do squats and lunges. Like, do physical practices to break up and move energy within your root chakra area. Open up the hips. Do that primal squat where your feet are flat on the floor and you're as low down as possible, and your hands are like this, and your elbows are pressing out your knees. Like, don't hurt yourself, but practice opening up the hips. Do yoga classes specifically focused on hip opening. Get a reflexology session and have the feet worked on. That's a really good way to connect to that root chakra energy. And remember, root chakra is based in physical awareness, our earthly capacity. And develop a physical practice that feels really supportive to you, that actually drops you into your body. So do a little audit on your physical practices. Ask, okay, does this put me in my body and connect me to my corporeal intelligence, or does it take me out of my body? Do I do this physical practice because it lets me check out? Like, am I reading magazines, running on a treadmill? Maybe it's you're moving your body, but you're not actually connecting with it. So kind of keep that in mind. Moving emotion out of the body. So this is something to Aaron's asking, how do you feel about grounding meditations, something with tree energy, sending roots down? Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Grounding meditation, or walking barefoot on earth, literally burying your feet in the ground. Like, if you go to the beach, or you have some dirt that's really easy to kind of play with, and this is a fun kid activity of, like, let's bury our feet in the ground and be trees, right? It actually, by touching the earth and putting yourself physically in contact with the magnetic resonance of the earth, it will help you align your body, and it will feel a little more comfortable for you to drop in. Yeah. Yay. Cool. And then, so moving emotion out of the body, this is something that it's really helpful to receive support with. So whether it's from someone like me, someone, if you're working with a coach or a therapist, or somebody to help you move hidden, trapped emotion out of the body, it does sit in the organs. It sits in the tissues. We have, those knots in our back that when our massage therapist is just cranking down on, and all of a sudden you start crying, right? That's hidden, trapped emotion. We all have it. It's just a matter of working it out so that it's not blocking our body's ability to be present anymore. Because imagine if your body is full of something like anger or grief that you haven't let yourself feel and acknowledge, then it's not going to be safe for you to be present in your body on the energetic level. Quieting the mind, shifting gears of awareness, dropping into a space of mindfulness. Mindfulness meditations are really good for stuff like that. And noticing body sensation. So we're going to do an exercise with that. I'll take a quick pause if there are any questions, and then we'll do a body sensation awareness with a specific twist on it. And so this exercise would also help you with that. Any questions or comments before we shift gears and do a practice together? How's this feeling so far? Good? Questions, comments? Do you have a new favorite thing you've heard? Resonating in new ways. Awesome. Thank you, Stacy. Yay. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and, again, set everything aside. We're going to do a little A little noticing practice here. Erin says, love this wisdom, great for my practice of connecting with personal magic. Yes, absolutely. This body wisdom and corporeal intelligence is really fundamental when working practical magic. It just is, right? We can't reroute that. We only have one body and we get to work with it and put it to its best use in fullest capacity or not. So better to bring it fully online. Okay, so let's go ahead and set everything down and come into, again, that space of noticing and allowing ourselves to, once again, fully arrive in the body with the breath. Exhaling everything out. Deep breath in. And exhale with a sigh. One more deep breath in. And exhale with a sigh. And so the exercise that we're going to do right now, I'll demonstrate it to you, and then you'll have a few moments of silence to practice it yourself. And we're going to be noticing body sensation awareness without attaching meaning to it. So it's really easy to get wrapped up in the story around it, right? So we might say, oh, I have some, I'll give you an example of, I have some tension in my left lower shoulder blade, and then my mind starts going to the, well, I had a shoulder injury and I ran a 10K on Sunday, and we're going into the story. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to notice physical sensation without attaching meaning by, instead of saying I have or I feel, we're saying there is. And we're just going to notice, and you can speak this aloud to yourself. Again, I'll give you an example. So there is tension in the left lower shoulder blade. Notice if anything shifts, and then if it's still there, you can say it again. There is tension in the left lower shoulder blade. And you can acknowledge it, give it a couple of acknowledgements, and keep noticing. Okay, there is relaxation in the heart. There is tension in the right side of the neck. There is release in the left hand. So I'm going to put myself on mute here for a moment and allow you to be present with your own awarenesses. Again, saying there is, and naming to yourself the sensations you notice. Let's go ahead and take a minute there. And allowing yourself to notice what it's like to tune into awareness in this way. What shifts or subtle perceptions are opening up to you now that you're noticing? Go ahead and take a deep breath into everything that you've witnessed, everything that you've absorbed from this experience. Offering yourself so much love and gratitude for taking the space and time for this practice today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And bringing all of this back to your conscious awareness with you. Wiggling the fingers and toes, rolling the wrists, the neck, the shoulders. And when you're ready, opening the eyes. How did that go? Either unmuting or in the chat box. What'd you get out of that?
I found it interesting where there was subtle tension, and then being able to draw attention, like I noticed that there was tension in my upper shoulders. And then as I was noticing without judgment, I realized that there was actually a clearer, more poignant point of tension that was slightly lower back, like below, like on my spine, below my neck.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like more accurately aware of where that tension was coming from.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah. And then inviting release. That was nice.
Great. Okay. So without even trying to release, it invited release merely by noticing without attaching any value or meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Great. Oh my gosh. Speaking of personal magic, right? How did that go for other people? Thank you for sharing, Erin. Any other observations to share before we close? Do you love it? Do you hate it? It's kind of like, I want to try it again when I'm not in a class environment. Maybe people are journaling. Okay. Well, regardless, the couple of things that Erin mentioned are really important points of this exercise is that without attaching the value and the story to it, then it allows for a more subtle awareness. It's inviting that subtle perception, and merely by recognizing it, that is often enough to catalyze some form of release. So that was some pretty powerful stuff right there. Go ahead and give yourself a high five. Whew, good job. And know that there was a lot that we covered. Brianna says, love it. Awesome. I'm so glad you loved it. Yay. There was a lot that we covered in our class today, and there is a lot more that you can do with this. So if this is something that you would like to receive support from, or support with from me specifically, then I would like to invite you to receive 3 healing sessions. Normally, my rate for that is $9.97, but since you're here, you're on this class, I'm offering that to you for $8.97. So 3 classes for $8.97, or if you want to break it into 3 payments, you can do 3 payments of $333. So if you want support in clearing hidden trapped emotions, in coming into greater attunement with your body sensation awareness, in cultivating a physical practice that is really supportive for you, being in touch with your corporeal intelligence, and enhancing your skills as a practitioner through the path of the body, if that's something that you want help with, then I am happy to support you. So again, that's 3 sessions for $8.97 instead of $9.97, my normal rate, or 3 payments of $333. So you get about $100 off either way. Normally it's about $100 more for both the payment plan and the pay in full option. So you'll have a link if you would like to do that with me. I'm going to send you an email later today that will have a link to the recording of this class, a link to register for next month. Remember, next month is going to sell out. It is one of my most popular, some of my most popular teachings, and a link if you'd like to purchase some sessions with me. And those can be either virtual or in person, no problem. So I hope you enjoyed today. I really did. It's a lot of fun to do this work with you. And remember, next month is Emotional Alchemy. That's going to be even more fun in a different, interesting way, where whenever we're working with this kind of stuff, we get to really examine what's coming up and what haven't we dealt with. So what do we need in order to do it right this time? So I'm really excited and grateful that you showed up to do this work. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you next time.